Hello, POE here, and I think it is about time to talk about what build I'm planning to play in the upcoming league, which will start next week when I'm making this video. And I have a little bit of a silly idea for a build, so I don't know if this will work, but it sure will be fun to see if it works. I want to make an Scion Scorching Ray Brightness Fire Mana Shield build. Well, try to say that along fast. But I'm gonna go over it when I continue here. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the gear. I have two pieces of gear specifically. I am actually three when I think about it, that I need to this build. And they should not be expensive in the league. And I hope the build will work. It would be really fun if it works. But let's talk about my actual skill tree. And actually, even for that, let's talk about what I'm gonna do for Ascendancy, because for me, playing as an Scion is a little bit of a mess, so I'm doing things. The first thing I want to go for is Chieftain for that sweet fire damage and the life regeneration. The rest of the things, well, it exists. And also that increased strength is quite nice for some extra life, you know? And I'm gonna go for Path of the Marauder, and I'm gonna show that later in the skill tree. Then I was thinking, and I went to take the last one, take a Cultist, mostly only for that you can apply additional curse, because I don't feel for using items so I can apply additional curse, and I absolutely do not feel for taking it in the skill tree, because that's just way too long and way too many points. So let's take a look at my skill tree. I'm gonna start with the life, obviously. I have a Yulsok here, which I'm probably going to just have cast speed, fire damage, and some life. I also have a potency and will, because I want some increased skill duration because of my Scorching Ray, which will be my main source of damage. And if enemy come close to me, they will just burn to death by my Brightness Fire as well. I'm also thinking about taking Ash, Frost, and Storm, because that's a quite nice amount of elemental damage. I'm gonna be a mana based build, so I want a lot of mana. I'm going to have mana on as much gear as I possibly can, so I took Dreamer as well. I also have Elemental Equilibrium, because I want to fire away some things to lower my enemy's resistance, so they die even quicker. That's my idea at least. And that's why I want to curse them also, and dual curse them. And I also went down here, took the big life wheel. And I went all the way here to take exceptional performance, to really hammer in that increased skill duration. It's going to be fun. I'm also going to have a quick recovery, of course, and of course the star of the show, which is Mind Over Matter, which will work both to protect my life, hopefully, and to reduce the damage I take from Brightness Fire. That's my idea at least, and it should work. I went to the Witch Eye, took Firewalker, because why not? It's a lot of fire damage and some cast speed, and even some resistance. Also have Heart and Soul. I forget to mention Arcanist Dominion. I have some cast speed here, and some spell damage notes here. And also some Heart and Soul, Deep Wisdom, and I took Arcane Will. I know I'm getting Energy Shield from this one, so I'm gonna be very careful by actually having Energy Shield on my gear, because I don't want any Energy Shield. But I take Arcane Will anyway, because I want that mana regeneration. Also the maximum amount of mana. So I'm just going to not have any energy shield if I can not have it. Also have Retribution in the Temple area. Took Discipline Training, Century, Brightness Decree. Also reduces the mana cost of my skills. It's quite nice when I'm using Scorching Ray as well, because if I get hit super hard and lose all of my mana, I can't use my spell anymore. I can still kill them with my Brightness Fire around me, so it's not that bad. Also have Sentry, and some mana and life regeneration, which are like a double dipping for this build, because I both want mana regeneration and life regeneration at the same time, which is really nice. I went to take Devotion. I took Divine Judgment, because 50% increased elemental damage. How can you not want to have that? At least for me. I'm going to use a bunch of auras, so I took Sovereignty. I took Purity of Flesh. And why not take some Holy Fire as well? I am thinking, maybe I sacrifice some notes to get Elemental Overload, because it's just a really nice note for this, because I don't want to crit. I don't care the slightest about crit, and my attacks don't hit, they just burn. So elemental overload, I can just trigger it with like an orb of storm with extra crit chance on, and I'm going to have elemental overload, which is a chunky piece of damage. So I'm really thinking about that, but I haven't decided yet. I also have thinking about taking this one position, not because I need the accuracy, but some dexterity always nice. And also that cast speed, and I'm both getting cast speed from this one and this one, that's 10% cast speed, which is quite nice, and the movement speed you should not really neglect. So I think about taking this one, so I have some questions in the skill tree still. And finally, you know, I said I took Path of the Marauder, so I can start in the Marauder area as well, taking in the UC life notes here. This one is not UC at all, but I just consider this a big chunk of strength, which is some damage, some life at least. I also have Arcanist, life generation, fire damage, and fire damage on time, really nice. Why not take an Unraveling Stance? I can't get stunned. I also took Barbarism because this is pretty much the most important thing I take in the Marauder skill tree, because I want that one extra to maximum fire resist, which is really nice. And that is my skill tree. And also when it comes to bandits, I of course thinking about killing all of them. So that's my skill tree, but I also thinking about the gear I'm gonna use. I have, I think it is 4 pieces of gear when I think about it, which are a unique one that I really want to use to this build. I want to use a weapon called the Bellfire, you can see it on screen right now. It's a weapon specifically for Rightness Fire, and that weapon will pretty much allow me to not having to use a 6-link, so I'm gonna get that weapon. Then I'm gonna get a Calm's Heart for some massive amount of life, and also the fire damage is quite nice. Then I must have an Rise of the Phoenix shield, which should be dirt cheap as well, well at least it usually are. And I'm going to use, I think 2 Witchfire Brew, you can see it on screen, that flask there, because it gave a huge amount of damage to your damage over time, and this build will be all about damage over time and burning everything. So that's my idea for my little bit unconventional build, well it's unconventional for me. And I hope this will be fun. Tell me what you think about my build idea, and if you have any input, I will be happy to read them. But anyway, I thank you for watching, and see you guys in the league.